Hey all, here are OS Reviews. About a year and a half ago, we did a review on a pair of translator buds called the Timekettle WT2, and I thought they were pretty cool, especially the concept of being able to wear one, give the other one to the second person, and be able to have instant translation. However, that first generation model was definitely bulky, so it's kind of hard to tell here on camera, but if we compare it with something like regular AirPods, you can just tell how much larger the case here is, and that just made it a little bit harder to travel with. However, later on, the company did roll out a second generation model called the M2 that was a little bit smaller and offered similar functionality, but now we have yet another generation that is more of the direct successor to these WT2s from before, and they're called the WT2 Edge, supporting up to 40 languages. Now, what is a little bit disappointing though is the new model has been increased in terms of price. So now this retails for $250, which I think is a little bit steep. But if you are someone that is constantly traveling or trying to communicate in business scenarios and you have to understand another language, this might be a interesting tool to consider. Has improved noise cancellation capabilities, simultaneous translation, transcription to text, and saving those notes later on are all functions that you'll find on here. Now, one thing I'm not a huge fan of is this WT2 can only be used for translation, but it can't be used for music or answering phone calls. To me, that's a little bit of a step back compared to their M2 or Music 2 that was able to offer music plus translation capabilities. So this kind of returns to what the original WT2 had, which was just a focus on pure translation. But it is what it is. Battery life with the case, up to 12 hours, and then the buds themselves can last up to 3 hours of continuous translation time. Other packaging accessories include optional hooks that you can attach on the buds to make them less easy to fall out. And although they use a semi-open design like the Apple AirPods instead of a true silicone tip, they also provide a few pads that you can apply over the tips to get a more snug fit. And then last but not least, there's a USB Type-C charging cable. Granted, keep in mind that if you are using the hooks and extra accessories, although it makes the buds more secure, the case only has enough room to fit the buds inside as is. So you have to remove them before you pop them back in for travel or for charging. First impressions here, the WT2 Edge is made out of a shiny polycarbonate plastic. Material choice feels similar to something like the aforementioned AirPods, and these are definitely massively reduced in terms of size. And I guess, never really understood why the originals needed to be that big to begin with. But I mean, this is a night and day difference, as you can see here. Even compared to the M2 second generation, these are still much slimmer and more compact. The one caveat is the WT2 Edge maybe loses out on having quite as cool of a design in terms of the casing can kind of magnetically open up and split into two. Now, because of the more compact, streamlined design, they are going with a more conventional kind of flip to open case. But overall, I would definitely prefer having a more compact design any day of the week. Just like before, the buds do have these LED lights, which are in the shape of dialogue boxes on the left and right sides, and as opposed to regular stereo buds, it's meant for you to wear one and give the other one to the second person. Buds themselves do have multiple microphones built on in that helps with the ambient noise cancellation. Otherwise, again, lightweight and comfortable. They didn't feel too heavy or anything like that when wearing. So here was the M2 from before versus the OG WT2s. You can see the size difference there is almost comical. Software-wise, they're still using the same companion app, which you can find on both iOS and Android. And I know some of you guys might also wonder, well, what's the real difference compared to something like Google Translate? Well, for one, these do work better when it comes to continuous translation, which Google Translate doesn't really do. So if you are trying to talk in one language while the other person is talking, it's going to be able to be faster in terms of switching between those languages automatically. Popping them out of the case, it's fairly quick to connect. You can see the battery percentage remaining on the left and right sides, and afterwards you can access the different functions. Simultaneous mode allows you to talk in two languages at the same time. This will begin recording for the entire session until you tap on pause. You'll also hear the translated text being spoken back to you. So right now we have English, but I can also choose between the other 40 or so languages that you have available if you're in the online mode. Additional settings allow you to pick up and adjust the sensitivity of the microphones. You can choose if you want to use the offline mode only, as well as change the volume on the left and right sides. Now the touch mode is going to be a little bit more manual in terms of you actually have to tap on the stem once to begin talking and then tap on it again to stop, but it can be a little bit more precise. Let's do a quick test. I'll start off with Chinese and tap on the bud. 你好，这是一个测试。 So hopefully you heard that. Basically, the side that is in English just read out loud, hello, this is a test. Now, one thing you have to remember in this mode, of course, is after you stop talking, you have to tap on the buds again for it to stop picking up things from the microphone. Otherwise, it'll keep on translating. So again, this side is Chinese. So if I tap on this once more, it will keep on picking up whatever I say until you tap on it again to act as the stop command. So alternatively, we can also try now on the English side and say something like, all right, this seems to work pretty well in this test. You can also hold the phone like this, so the other person can still see the transcription in text. Although it does take a split second to do the translations, still is easy enough, but I wouldn't say it's completely instantaneous. There might be just a 0.1 second delay for it to parse and then translate. Punctuation like commas and sentences are also phrased together pretty well. Otherwise, we also have the speaker mode, so now in this functionality, you can still be wearing one of the buds and talk into it, but it will read the translation out loud using your phone's speaker instead. So if you have to translate it to, let's say, 2 people or a group of folks, this is now a test of the speaker translation mode. Let's see how it does.
这就是扬声器的翻译模式。Ahora voy a intentar hablar en inglés que voy a traducir al español.
So that was pretty good in terms of capturing most of the meaning. Finally, there's a new feature here called group chat. Let's say in this group I have Spanish speakers as well as Chinese speakers. They can all talk in their native language, and from my side I would be able to see the translated text all in English, which is a pretty neat idea. So it's going to show in whatever language the person has set up their account in, and allows you to add up to 50 people into each group. Hello world. And there we go. So we see it spoken, and it will send that text instead to the entire group. But alternatively, you can also type things in using the keyboard if you prefer. It will also translate onto the other side. You can also tap on history to see a record of all the translations that you've done, and all of these can be further kind of played back. The session can be reviewed, and you can also export any of these transcriptions, email it to me, or copy it as a text for me to review later on. Now, one other thing I do have to point out is to access the offline translation capabilities, it is a little bit restrictive. Not all of the offline modes are included out of the box. In fact, if you go into settings, you actually find them inside of their quote-unquote store, where you can purchase some of the additional offline language packs. Now, by default, they only get you 1 or 2 language packs for free, and that is actually a little bit of a more stingy approach compared to on the earlier gens, which I believe they gave you all of them out of the box. So that's also something I don't really love, because I think for this price that it's selling at, they really should bundle it in, because that offline capability is just one of the biggest differentiators in my opinion compared to a existing service. But anyways, here's what it kind of looks like. So you can find the corresponding buds that you're looking at, and then afterwards you can try and click on download to get those installed. You have, again, a little bit more limited options compared to the online modes, which is more plentiful, but overall it will then save onto your phone. Now, one other thing I'm not the biggest fan of, although I admit this is a bit more of an edge case, I have tried out a few of Timekettle's products. So I have already downloaded some of the language packs, like between English and Korean, or also between, let's say, English and Chinese when I was using the WT2. It's installed and already took up the memory on my phone. But then if I'm trying out the M2, I also reinstalled some of those language packs. And now with the WT2 Edge, it seems like I have to reinstall those packs again, which is not something I love, because I feel like if you are an existing owner of their past products, these language packs should carry over. Otherwise, it would just be kind of taking up extra space. If I buy 3 of their products, I have to install the same translation package 3 times on my phone, which just doesn't really make sense. And otherwise, the translation quality in the offline mode is fair. I would say it's definitely decent, and it gets you the main sentiment of what you're trying to express, but the quality using the online translations are typically a little bit stronger. In my testing, I would say it's closer to about 90%, versus the offline is closer to, let's say, 80 or 85%, even though this is already one of the best translation buds that you can find on the market. And again, that phone app is definitely optional, so you can just make sure it's connected, and you can even put the phone away in your pocket. As long as the second person is wearing the bud, you can just have a conversation while looking at them face to face, which is admittedly pretty cool when it comes to learning a language and also traveling to places where you haven't been to before. So you can check out more details if you're interested in a concept like this. But for now, that's been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. That's been the Timekettle WT2 Edge.